Good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. I want to start by just thanking Administrator Criswell for being here and on the ground this morning. I said it yesterday, I appreciate so much their quick response, her willingness to fly here, and we can give them all the data, we can show them the destruction, but to really be on the ground and see firsthand and to listen to the stories is really beneficial. So we really appreciate her and her team being here and being on the ground. I also just want to give a shout out to Emergency Manager Cooper and his team for everything that he has done, not only for his team, but for our first responders, our community members, the utilities that are on the ground really working diligently to restore power. I think we're still at about 50%, but when you take a look at the destruction, that's incredible that they're there already, and we actually hit that yesterday. So a shout out to them and just the incredible volunteers that have showed up. I was on the ground yesterday, and I can't even tell you the amount of debris that has been collected and hauled off. In some of those streets, it looked like a different place. You couldn't even see what was left of the homes in a lot of the areas, and especially the downtown area where so many homes were impacted right next to the hospital. Tremendous progress there as well. So just appreciate first responders, law enforcement, community members. I believe Jeremy I guess it was the chair of the Board of Supervisors, said 11 different county secondary road divisions have offered huge equipment to come and help clean out the debris, which is movement. And I guess they've got some things going on here. They've got a county fair that's going to happen in about 3 weeks, and in addition to that, they've got RAGBRAI that's coming through. So this is a community that's in gear, and just it is so inspiring to just see the their response to it, looking forward, looking to the future, how strong they are in just complete devastation, and I'm sure the administrator can talk about that. She sees that as she visits across the country. I'm going to give you just a couple updates, and I'm turning it over to the administrator. We were able to get our expedited request to FEMA this morning, so we filed the paperwork. We have expanded the governor's disaster declaration. We now have 32 counties that are included in that, so we added a bunch of counties to that yesterday. We have requested for 4 counties, and a lot of it has to do with the major destroyed property, public assistance for some of our public utilities like the hospital. But in Adair County alone, we had 153 major destroyed homes. Montgomery had 8, Polk County 26, Story County 15, for a total of 202. So we've had a lot of destruction and damage across the state, and hopefully we'll meet the criteria to qualify. They have policies and metrics in place, and we're going to do everything we can to get that declaration. And I just again appreciate FEMA's response and helping us work through that paperwork. And with that, I'd like to invite the administrator to the podium to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Governor. I'd like to just start out by saying, on behalf of the President, our deepest condolences go out to those people who lost friends, family members, neighbors, as a result of the tragic tornado that went through here just a few days ago. We did receive the request from the Governor just today for the expedited major disaster declaration, and we are working through that, and we will process that as quickly as we can. But me being on the ground here today really helps me understand the actual impact. And as much as I've been watching the videos and seeing the pictures of the tornado damage, it just does not do it justice when you're here on the ground and you can see the homes gone, or you can talk to a member who lost their home and they shared their story of how they just barely escaped death, where they decided to stay to keep safe during the storm. Those are the kind of things that you just can't get unless you're here on the ground and talking to people and seeing the impacts firsthand. And so we are going to continue to work with the Governor's team to assess all of the damages that have happened and make sure that whatever we can provide assistance for, that we're able to do so. I heard a lot of stories today as we were walking around town, and we heard about all of the rescues that the first responders did. And I always want to give my thanks to the first responders, because we know that they go out and perform a lot of these life-saving actions while they don't even know if their own homes may be impacted or damaged. And so always want to give my gratitude to the first responders for all of the amazing work that they do during times like this. But I also want to thank the neighbors, right? We also hear so many stories of hope and inspiration of neighbors helping neighbors. And I often say they're often the true first responders because they know where the most vulnerable members of their community members are. They know who to go check on and make sure that they're okay. And as you continue to go through the next several days and weeks of recovery and cleanup, make sure you're continuing to do that. You know, there's a lot of hazards that are out there still, and there's a lot of danger that can cause additional harm to individuals. And so make sure you're looking out for yourselves, make sure you're taking care of your neighbors as you continue to go through this cleanup. I'd also like to say that the best thing you can do right now is take a lot of photos and document the damages to your home. We want to be able to have that information for both your insurance company and if and when a disaster is declared here, you know, we'll have to have that information to process any other types of assistance that are out there. We have had some staff on the ground for several weeks now because of the previous tornado that went through. And so Iowans have not had any chance to really recover from those last storms. And we know that we're expecting more weather coming in over the weekend. And so the one thing I also want to say is make sure you're listening to your local officials, make sure you're listening to the weather reports, make sure that you take the steps necessary to protect yourselves and your families as you see the next round of weather coming through as well. And we will continue to have our staff on the ground supporting the previous disaster, and as we continue to process this one, we'll add more staff to help, you know, these communities that have had these significant impacts from these tornadoes through this recovery process. Thank you, Governor. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And as she stated, there is additional weather coming through the state right now. So we have the National Weather Service with us. I'd like to give you a few moments to maybe give them the update that you gave us this morning, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Donna Dubberke. I'm the meteorologist in charge at the Weather Service office out of Des Moines. A piece of paper because I've got some statistics on what we know so far. So first I want to thank Jeremy and Emergency Management. We're so grateful for your partnership. It's huge. On behalf of the National Weather Service, we're absolutely heartbroken at the loss of life and property here. And we're going to do everything we can to support the community and the officials as the recovery continues for the next weeks and months. So here's what we know so far about the tornadoes that we've surveyed. We've surveyed 3 separate long-track tornadoes with a damage path totaling over 130 miles across the state. Tornadoes initially developed over Montgomery and Page counties on Tuesday around 2:45 in the afternoon. 2 out of those 3 tornadoes strengthened as they raced northeast at speeds of up to 50 miles an hour. So at that speed, that's about a mile a minute. So the damage path across Greenfield is about 1 mile long as the crow flies, which means it took just about 1 minute for the devastation in Greenfield. Damage continued as the storm moved through northeastern Adair County and then dissipated as it moved into Madison County. The 3rd tornado was from Johnston to near Nevada, and that produced EF2 damage. We recently released that the tornado northeast of Shenandoah to the north of Washington has been rated an EF3 tornado as well. So for now, for the Greenfield area and this tornado, we're estimating that it's at least EF3. We're consulting with some additional wind engineering experts to finalize that rating, and we hope to have that finalized later today. As we look ahead, there is severe storm potential that's returning to these same areas after midnight tonight. So we'll be working with emergency management and all the local officials to make sure that people can do the extra things that are needed.
Appreciate that. So we'll continue to keep those families that have been impacted, those families that lost loved ones in our thoughts and prayers, and as the Weather Service continues to give us information about potential storms, continue to pay attention. I think one of the ladies that we talked to, she's very fortunate to just be in the right spot to have her life saved, but she said, I've picked up here and I'm moving and helping other neighbors clean up their home as well. So just a lot of camaraderie out there, really a lot of support for each other, and that's how we can continue to lift them up and support them as well. And I think with that, we'll be happy to take questions. We've got a lot of experts behind us, so we'll take about 4 or 5 questions. 153 major or destroyed. That is just homes, not businesses yet. We asked for individual assistance through the Presidential Disaster Declaration, and then for ADARE we asked for public assistance as well, which brings in some different resources. A lot of that to do with the hospital. It sounds like they'll be, out for a while, and so we need to have a contingency plan in place, and we want to make sure that we have resources in order to do that. So they were able to also speak with the administrator and just relay some of the concerns that they had, and so we'll continue to work with them.
Governor or Administrator, I talked to somebody who you talked to earlier today after you spoke to him, and I said, how hopeful are you that you'll get government money? And he went, I have no idea. I've never done this before.
Yeah.
So for someone like that, can you give a timeline, given the expedited filing, as to how soon they'll get money, literal money in their accounts to help recover?
So what I can say is that the governor did submit the expedited major disaster declaration. We are going to process that as quickly as possible. Again, I have to say, if and when that is declared, the money can flow very quickly, and we can see money that goes once people register. They can see some financial reimbursement and support, usually within a few days.
Within a few days
Of them submitting a registration, which would happen after the disaster is declared.
how long might it take for the disaster to be declared?
We're going to process it. We're going to process it as quickly as we can.
Will you be providing any trailers for folks that lost their homes as you've done with other disasters?
Oops, I'm sorry, Governor. We have, again, the disaster has not been declared yet here, but we do have a suite of tools to support individuals that have had damages to their homes. It can be something as simple as just providing some financial reimbursement for repairs, to rental assistance if they have another place to live. We do have the capability to provide manufactured housing units, but it's really at the long end of the spectrum. It takes us a very long time to put those in place. So we really try to use all of the other tools in our toolbox to get people into some type of temporary housing solution as quickly as possible.
The great thing about Iowa too, not that it might be, something that we need, but, most of the individuals I talk to, I've said, do you have temporary housing? I've had 8 to 10 offers. A lot of family, a lot of, I've got an apartment that's not rented that's still there. So there are a lot of resources, and we have the shelter here that's temporary, but it's still here in place. And I think really very few have utilized it to this point. So, but those are things that we have access to that we'll just have to see if we need it as we move through the process.
Speaks to the resilience of
But,
Iowans.
but really, they've already got it taken care of. So
So very few have used the temporary housing offered here at the high school.
the shelter, yeah.
I think we're down to 3 or 4 as
Here,
of this
yeah.
morning for my update briefing this morning with my IC. So, yeah. So,
Individuals or families?
actually, I think that may be down to one family. I'd have to confirm that, but I believe that was down to one family. So, a mom and 2 or 3 adult children. So.
Is there a preliminary financial estimate for losses or damage?
I don't know the clear.
No.
I mean, it just
We're still working
so
with
many-
the governor's team to assess the total impact.
flooding. I mean, just a lot of things go into that. So, we've submitted a quick review of what we've been able to be able to account for. What was mentioned, I think, too, that was beneficial for this is we already had FEMA on the ground based on the tornado that went through on April 26th. So instead of the state doing an estimate and then FEMA coming in and doing an estimate, we were actually able to work together for some of this. And so that's helped expedite some of the process and the numbers. So I guess we were lucky from that aspect. It's just they were here and we were able to work with them to get those numbers solidified a little bit quicker. And that helps as well.
Governor, that was $11 million in public assistance. Your request for public assistance assessed $11 million in damage.
Yes.
Last question. Governor, do you know what the ages of the fatalities or the injuries were, like an age range?
I don't. Does anybody? I don't know if we have that information. No, we don't have that information, and still notifying next to kin. So those it was 4 fatalities here and then 1 in Adams County. So a total of 5, and just making sure that everybody's been notified. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.